Hello. Okay. Sorry about the last video. Some technical difficulties. Trying a new setup tonight. So I'm just going to pick up right where I left off. It's probably going to be another short one, maybe maybe a little bit longer. What I'm trying to do is I want to kind of just get the base of my history through, and kind of get to a point where the wheels start turning, the magic kind of starts happening, and I don't know. I kind of wanted to just get up to that point, and then we'll get to that. Anyway, so I left off. I think I just started talking about my stepdad. I met my stepdad about 4 years old. My mother and my sister and I were living alone in an apartment in Bellingham. And I met my stepdad about 4 years old. He married my mother about 2 years later. We had all moved in together. He had a stepdaughter, about a year younger than me. And they had this grand idea to move us all to Guam. And I have plenty of pleasant childhood memories of growing up. My mother was a nurse, and her husband was a teacher, so we weren't necessarily poor. They were a bit of a granola type. I mean, we did live up in Bellingham back in 1984, 85. So yeah, we were that type. Lovely, happy family, I think. But anyway, we moved us off to Guam, and at that point, my sister and I, there was some adoption stuff that happened with my stepdad because of us going out of the country and our real dad. Now, I had very, very little contact with my real dad up to this point. I have I think just one visit with him that I remember. Some very particular things that I remember. Using oatmeal before you cook your clams, so their bellies fill up with oatmeal and not sand. Down at the creek, I think it was a lamprey we almost got our hands on, and then a couple other things. And I do believe that was before I ended up moving off to Guam with stepdad. Now, anyway, that only lasted about 6 to 8 months, I think. My sisters did not acclimate well. I loved it. I went native overnight, not to paraphrase my mother, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The sisters did not. So as a result, we kind of just had to make a change of plans and come back home. So I think it was, we left to Guam somewhere around, well, I do believe I was in the first grade. And then we were back because I was back in second grade. So we were back in Snohomish, I want to say somewhere around 86, 87. And there we stayed. We started off in a little duplex kind of outside of town. Really, really great place, surrounded by trees and forests and ponds and horse pasture. And I mean, it was great. I loved it. Always been outdoors. Always loved being outside. Never felt very comfortable in the city. I've never felt very comfortable around a lot of people. At any rate, we stayed in Snohomish all the way up through, until I was in high school. Now, I was a regular kid as far as I know, up to a point. Now, I'm not sure when things kind of started to change. There are a few individuals that knew me when I was that young that I have spoken with today, and from the outside perspective, it was pretty clear that something might be wrong, but it was such a picture perfect home, that it was a facade. It was a facade. I didn't get it. I don't really know what happened, and I guess I don't want to try to even get too far into that part of my history and my life, because I really think that's kind of where Um, yeah, there's stages, in our development. There's a very critical point, between, say 3 years and 7 years, where your brain, that sense of individuality and self-awareness, and then a lot of learned traits and self-beliefs, self-limiting beliefs or self-empowering beliefs, whatever they may be. Those sort of things sort of are set in concrete at that very young age, but it's strange because it seems like stuff like that's still malleable. Because as we grow and puberty sets in, and at least from a man's point of view, I probably could have used my dad at a very young age and could have saved a lot of people a lot of pain and heartache. I could have used a good ass whooping at a young age. But I managed to carry on a chip on my shoulder for way too long, and finally had to just get shipped off and my face rubbed in the dirt and realized that I wasn't as cool as I thought I was, and the rules that were set were also meant for me. I want to really, this is just, I wanted to kind of get this out of the way. I'm a Washingtonian, born and raised. I love it here. I hope to always live here. I hope my children always live here, and their children, and so on and so on. I love philosophy. I listen to classical music more than anything else. I'm kind of a health freak, but I smoke cigarettes. I just try to pay attention to my diet, so I'm kind of just a basic average guy. I'm a little weird, but all in all, who and what I am and how you might meet me on the street is pretty average Joe. I guess I just don't think that if I didn't have much valuable, I don't know, stuff in my head, stuff worth sharing, I wouldn't be doing this. So, as my baseline, as I had mentioned in the video previously, I need a baseline, and the first baseline is me just sort of, I guess, letting you get to know me, but at the same time, I think what's happening is I'm getting to know myself, because I do get to watch these videos, and like I said before, I'm not editing them. I haven't deleted any yet, but if it ever comes to a point where that's the only thing that could possibly change, it'll get tossed out and I'll make a new one. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I really want to just keep this stuff straight up. So I'm going to keep it short tonight. I'm up to that point. Right now I'm an adolescent. The things to come are, I spent a little time in a mental institution, foster care, rehabs. And this was all before about 16, before I got shipped off to Western Samoa to a pretty intense boarding school, we'll call it. But anyway, I'm going to close for tonight. Thank you for catching another one of my entries. I hope I haven't lost too much interest. And yes, it is still me, minus the beard. I've been told I look drastically different, but still me. See you next time. Thanks.